Hello everyone, Pyrobright here. I'm a little sick today, so I thought I'd make a tutorial because I had some free time. But today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a Roblox GFX. So first things first, we have our character, and I'm just going to use my own avatar. But what you want to do first is grab your user ID from the top, and then you want to go into Roblox Studio. Now once Roblox Studio loads, you just load up a basic base plate, and then you'll go into the plugin section of the toolbox. Now personally, I use the Moon Animator 2. However, I believe it costs money nowadays, so you can always use like a character inserter. Such as load character light. But you want to select once you insert your ID into the account name or ID, you'll select R6 and click insert. Now me personally, I like to set it at 00 in the properties section, and then click exports, right click export selection, and then create a new folder. Hang on, let me get out of system 32. Select new folder and name it GFX. Click into it and name your file the name of your character. After this, you can load up Blender. I'm using a startup file that will be in the description below, as well as this rig and the Lightroom involved. So first things first, you'll have an empty rig. So you go to shading, and then you click this right here, open, and you'll find your folder, double click, and click handle 1, or whatever the main file is. This will import the texture of your character onto the rig. Me personally, I don't really like the bump that it has, so I just set the strength to 0. After this done, you click File, Import, Wavefront.obj, and once again, you'll find your folder, and you'll click your OBJ file. But before you click Import, make sure you deselect Split by Object and select Split by Group. Once that's done, you can go ahead and delete all the body parts that are already available on the original rig. I just have the hat and the sunglasses, so I'll just move them up on the rig, and then in the Properties tab, I'll select them separately, and then on Rotation, under the Z section, I'll just click 180. And then I'll control and click both of them together, and I'll adjust them so that way it fits the character perfectly. This looks good enough, so then I'll go into the section that says row bone, and I'll click head attachments. I'll control click head attachments, and then click Control P and set parent to object. After this, it's time to pose the character. Since my character looks like this, I'm just going to go with something pretty simple. So you'll click object mode and select the row bone and click pose mode. After this, you can pose your character in any way you like. I'm going to pose it in a somewhat mysterious form, and I'll let you guys know what the final product looks like. It's important to keep in mind that sometimes posing doesn't always have to look good in Blender. Sometimes the camera quality or the camera positioning will make the posing look a lot better than it does originally. I decided on this pose because it kind of fits the aesthetic of the character. Now it's time to do the lighting. I'm going to go back into object mode and select the large light in the back. And then I'm going to scroll down to the material properties list. I'm going to select this light color to be black because I want a darker background of the character. I'm going to set the strength to 5. On the warm, I'm also going to set it to black, as well as the top and the right. I kind of want these two lights to be shining on the character. But I'm going to select the cold and set it to white. Now let's see how it looks. Okay, it looks a little bit pinkish because of the black lights, so let's change that up. For the warm, I'm going to set it to white, so we can just edit it out later. Looks a bit pinkish because of this light actually, so I'm going to set this back to black and set the right top, or the right of the top, back to white. I'm going to set up a small light underneath, so I'm going to select add and then light and a point, and I'm going to set it to about right here. And we'll see how this power looks. Okay, it's not exactly close enough, so I'm going to set it a bit closer, but not too close because it will reflect off the character. And let's set it to about 20. I'm going to select an area light because it has a broader spectrum. And I'm going to properly adjust it so that way it's under the arm. You want to point this line directly at the spot that you want to illuminate. And therefore it removes all the pink. Next up, you're going to go back into the viewport shading. And you're going to render and render image. This might take some time, such as the 13 seconds or whatever, so just let it load. Alright guys, the image is done rendering. First things first, you want to click image and then save as, and you want to find your folder once again and just save it as render.png. Save as image. Now what you want to do is open Photoshop or whatever photo editor you're using. Personally, I use Photoshop because it's just the easiest and what I consider one of the best image edits. Personally, I'm going to use 1000 by 1000 with a resolution of 300. Now I'm going to click File, Place Embed, and I'm going to find my folder once again and click the render. Once that's in, I'm going to go ahead and set this to a darker background of about the background color. Then I'm going to click Shift and Backspace to fill the coal background. And then I'm going to go to Blending Options, and I'm going to click Inner Shadow, Inner Glow, and then set the opacity to about 50% and the size to about 200. Then I'm going to click Filter. I'm going to click Camera Raw Filter. This is going to help me remove all the excess pink in the image. I'm going to set the temperature to a little bit colder and the tint to a little bit warmer. Set the exposure about to -0.5, and the contrast I'm going to turn it up so the pink gets drowned out. And I'm going to set the highlights just slightly down to about -30. I'm going to turn the shadows down to about -15. Turn the whites up just to counterbalance it, and turn the blacks down. Texture, I'm going to probably leave it, but If you want to turn it up a little bit to give it a more defined look, you can, such as plus 50. The clarity, don't turn it down because it will make your image more blurry. So you can turn it up if you want a more bolder image, but I'm just going to leave it at about 0. And the dehaze really doesn't have anything to do with it. You can set this to however you like, but I'm going to leave it at 0 once again. I'm going to leave the vibrance and saturation at 0, and I'm going to go into the curve and adjust the highlights to be a little bit lower. After all that, I don't really mess with any of this, so I'm going to click OK. Now our image looks a bit different, and it looks a lot more fitting for the background. Now, of course, you can do a bunch of extra stuff, such as pixelate or edit certain parts, but for now, this is good for me, so I'm just going to add one final touch. I'm going to add a bit of a drop shadow to the image, and I'm going to set the opacity a little bit down, but the size a little bit more. This adds kind of contrast to the background and makes it look a lot better. Now this is the final result, and let me know how you guys turned out, and let me know if I missed anything or if you have any questions.